what's available to veterans that are purchasing a home?
Depending on what state you're from or depending on federal regulations at that given time, if you're a disabled veteran, you may not have to pay, there might be some of the closing costs or underwriting costs that you may not have to pay. Some states may not require you to pay property tax. There's several things out there, and it's just what veterans fail to do sometimes is look these things up and do the research. And it wasn't until I got out of the military, I started learning about several of these things. So that's why I thought it was important to talk about today is if me, 21 years in the military, doesn't know about it, then there's probably a lot of people that don't know about it.
Starting your route to retirement.
Welcome to the Guided Retirement Show. I'm your host, Dean Barber. Today I've got a very special guest, retired First Sergeant Chad Webb. Spent a lot of time, 21 years in the U.S. Marine Corps, and he's going to be joining us today to talk to not just you, but to people that you may know who have spent time in the U.S. military about some of the benefits that are available to our veterans that they may not be aware of. He's got a great story. It's an interesting interview, and so you're going to want to make sure that you tune in for the entire thing, and also going to want to make sure that you're sharing this with your friends. Before we hop into today's episode, I want to remind our listeners and viewers that you can access the same financial planning tools we use for our own clients on your own time, and all from the comfort of your own home. All you need to do is visit the link in the show notes and click the Start Planning button. From there, you can start building your retirement plan, no cost, no obligation. So Chad Webb, retired from the United States Marine Corps, now Chief of Staff here at Barber Financial Group, and it's a pleasure to have you in here on the Guided Retirement Show.
I'm pretty excited. I appreciate you having me, Dean.
All right, so let's get a little background on you. If I was like doing this military style, I'd really want to grill you here, but
Sure.
just share with us, first of all, how long you were in the Marine Corps, kind of your progression to get up to First Sergeant, and the good, the bad, and the ugly of your experiences.
All right. So when we get into the good, the bad, and the ugly, I'll probably have to keep it PG-13. But joined the Marine Corps in 2000 from upstate New York. It was pre-September 11th. So at the time we were kind of at peace. I was just looking for something better to do in life. Joined the Marine Corps, and September 11th happened, and it really changed perspective really quick. Served in the Marine Corps 21 years, really been stationed all over the world, across the country. Coincidentally enough, I was a recruiter in Independence, Missouri, and that's how I've landed here now. 2008, I was a recruiter, met my lovely bride, and decided this was going to be home when it was time to retire. So yeah, after 21 years, retired in May, and transitioned over here and started working with you guys. Yeah,
Right.
so I think probably the good is just it's really an unspoken bond and just a great brotherhood in the most difficult moments. Marines and service members, period, just have that resolve to make the most difficult moments, the most memorable and desired ones that, as I reflect back now, those are the most fond moments that I've had. So to say that the difficult moments help callous you and build a bond is really an understatement, and those are by far the most enjoyable things that I take with me and I still carry in my heart today. Yeah,
Well, you still keep in contact with a lot of your Marine brothers, right?
I do. Yeah, on a daily basis, there's either text messages or phone calls, some social media interaction, but typically just regular conversation. And I think one of the neatest things for me is a lot of them ask, "Hey, do you miss the brotherhood?" I do miss the brotherhood, but if you can find an organization and something that you're passionate about doing, that brotherhood really still exists, and it's just a welcoming team, and it's really a neat experience. This being my first profession outside of the Marine Corps.
So you spent some time in Afghanistan, if I recall.
I did February 2011 to March 2012. Yeah, I was over there for 13 months.
Was that your least favorite deployment?
No, and here's why. I think that was really the pivotal turning point in my career that really helped shape me going towards the first sergeant route. That's when I realized that everything is a people business. you have to know your people, and you have to be fine-tuned with what's important to them and what means the most to them. Because that's all you have. This was pre-FaceTime. If you could get, some internet or a phone call or Skype to work, you might get to see a familiar face from back home. I think maybe twice or three times the whole time I was deployed. But the point of it is, that's all you have is each other. So you really get to know each other, and the details. And that's really what shaped the type of leader I wanted to be. I wanted to be a big brother and a mentor and a role model, rather than the typical military rule by fist, rule by authority style. So that's really what built my desire to continue to evolve into a good leader that people could look up to, and I could build followers, but still be comfortable to follow them also.
Awesome. So when you were over in Afghanistan, we're going to talk a little bit about you, but then we're going to get into some of the military benefits that
Sure.
we want everybody to know about. And so even if somebody is not retired military, chances are they know somebody who is retired military, so they'll have an opportunity to share this podcast with them so that they can get some of the knowledge from you on some of the great benefits that are available for our veterans. So when you were in Afghanistan, I'm curious, just because you and I really haven't had this conversation, but so I know you had your friendlies and then you had the people that were not so friendly. How did you tell the difference?
Uniform, obviously, first. And, if they weren't inside the wire, we refer to the wire as just the perimeter of the base. If they were inside the wire, it was typically they were vetted pretty good, and the security was it was pretty tight knit. So uniforms mostly, and then relying on the exterior security. I had the fortune of being on a base probably 95% of my time there. But just really keeping your head on a swivel, situational awareness, and all the training that they put you through. Does it look like a middle-aged male? Do they look like some type of combatant? Even anything as simple as looking at the silhouette of their clothing and seeing, hey, is there anything abnormal? Something sticking. You just the attention to detail that the military ingrains in you, like it just becomes a second nature. Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Now, you spent some time in Japan, Mount Fuji, right?
Yes.
Cold
Mount
weather
Fuji.
training.
Yes, we did. We lived outside a little bit. I was with a golf company, 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines, and that's really where we got to really bonding as men, is just living out in the white snow.
Yeah. How was that?
It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. I think culture aside, just the experience. How many people can say, "Hey, I've woke up for days on end, and the first thing I see is Mount Fuji."
Yeah.
That's just a highly sought after tourist spot. And I mean, heck, I lived there for a couple months. It was just beautiful and amazing. And oh, by the way, we get to do a lot of cool stuff, train with the brothers I love, and shoot stuff and blow things up once in a while. Yeah. You can't beat that one.
So what was your least favorite deployment?
Oh gosh. I'd have to say probably leading up to it, that deployment, because at that point I was starting to lead and gear towards retirement. So I knew potentially that was going to be my last deployment with Marines. So there was a bittersweet to that. That was also my first deployment after being a father. So that was the real difficult part, was saying goodbye. Returning from deployment, the real difficult part was saying goodbye to my brothers. That's probably going to be my last deployment. I'm never going to experience that camaraderie and brotherhood again. So I'd say that was my least favorite on the book ends of it. In between, that was probably my most favorite deployment.
Now, you came out of the Marines disabled, correct?
I did. So after all the evaluation and everything, there was several broken things in my body. They did find me 100% disabled. Just 21 years of wear and tear. It just it's nothing, no freak accident. There was no combat injuries or anything. 21 years wear and tear.
Yeah. And so as you transitioned from military life to civilian life. I've been around you a lot since you transitioned, and it doesn't seem
Sure.
to have been a difficult process for you. Has there been things internally that you've struggled with?
No, I think preparedness. Like I talked about before, in Afghanistan, I learned that everything's a people business. Well, you can't effectively say that and mean that if you're not taking care of yourself. I can't take care of my team if I'm not taking care of myself. And through good leaders and bad leaders, I really learned that that's not just going to the gym or eating healthy. That's education, mental preparedness to transition to something else and making sure that you're ready to encounter whatever that future endeavor may or may not be. For me, it was education. I kicked and screamed with my wife for the longest time to even start pursuing an education. And as I started, I'm like, wow, I feel more clear. I feel, that I'm learning things, and there's actually a purpose of education. I just figured, 20 years in the Marine Corps, I'm going to be good.
Yeah.
Education's not
But
necessarily
you
important.
you did your MBA program while you were in the Marine Corps,
I
right?
did. I did my MBA program while I was in the Marine Corps. And I finished actually shortly after I started here. I
Right.
finished my last class. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's impressive. So you think do you think that going through the MBA courses while you were in the military, do you think that helped develop you as a better leader your last few years?
I don't think it helped develop me as a better leader. It helped develop those around me because they saw, hey, if First Sergeant Webb is the busiest man in the unit and he's still able to, you know, pursue an education, then we certainly better be able to do it too. And that's what I always would preach to the team is, hey, it's never too late to start something great and start something new. And you're never too busy if you just prioritize your time and manage it effectively. So I think that's really what catapulted really my heart when I saw the things that I would talk to Marines about, and I saw the fruits of the labor, and I saw them actually putting forth an effort and taking to heart these things, and they're coming to me and requesting, submitting packages to do, any vocational training or any other type of college or school. That's where I really acknowledged that, uh, man, I think I might be making a difference, and
That's
this is
cool.
pretty neat. Yeah.
That's cool. And so you and I talked a little bit about, one of your biggest rewards was being able to, watch basically a kid come into the military and then develop them over time.
Yeah. I mean, let's face it. When a man or woman joins our military, our armed services, that that's their first thing, even before college, most of the time. You know, the normal evolution of adulthood is you graduate high school, you go to college, and you figure out what you're going to do in life. Well, these young war fighters, they come and that they've identified what it is they're going to do for at least the next 4 years, and it's serving a nation. So really that's their first time away from home. So it's not necessarily watching them evolve into a grown man or grown woman, but watching them evolve into someone that's trying to develop a career and build something of themselves. And this is their first time away from home, from mom and dad, their girlfriend, their boyfriend, whoever it is. And watching an entire team come together, watching an entire village help bond and build that cohesion. I think that's what was always the neatest thing to me, was watching that. And then the bonus of, wow, like I watched this person transition from an 18-year-old boy or 18-year-old woman to, just a rock star of a service member and someone that's going to defend our nation, and someone that really you and I can sleep at night saying, hey, you know, this guy or
Yeah.
this girl, that they get it. They truly get it, and they know what their roles are in defending our nation.
So it's interesting to me that you joined the Marine Corps before 9/11, but were then right in the middle of that, less than 2 years in, and deployed in Afghanistan, that you decided, hey, I'm going to be career military. What was the thought process there? Seems like if that were the situation, man, I got to get out of this.
Well, so to be honest, it probably wasn't until about my 12-year mark in the military that I figured, well, I might as well ride it out to retirement now. I'd really always taken it 4 years at a time because, heck, just like the market, situations change on on the turn of a dime. Things change, and I didn't want to shortchange myself of something, of really just premeditating what I was going to do in life if that wasn't it.
Yeah.
So I took it 4 years at a time as I continued to reenlist. And then part of that transition and becoming a leader is that's where the desire, and that's where it was no longer about me. It was about those I serve. And I always said, after about a 12-year mark, I said, I'm going to do this until the wheels fall off, essentially. And there's the work-life balance. You have to find, I think my biggest change or turning point was, I was really just ready to be a dad and a husband. Still loved the Marine Corps, still had plenty of gas left in my tank, but it was time to come home and be a dad and a husband more than anything. So I think being a father really helped guide me in that transition.
Awesome. So there may be some people that are viewing us on YouTube or listening to us on a podcast that may have a family member that's currently in the armed forces. What advice would you give to them?
Be proud. Be proud and know that the men and women that are serving this nation, they know what they're doing and they're trained well. They're trained very well. And it's a beautiful country. And to just say you've served or say someone who served, it's just a prideful gesture, and it's a noble gesture that, not many can say that they've done. So I think the biggest advice is just be proud. Yeah.
And for the younger individuals that are out there serving in the military, would you encourage them to start learning and using the time that they have in the military to start getting their education? Or would you say, hey, wait until you get out of the military and then go to college? How would you do that?
It's never too early and it's never too late. What I would commonly encounter was a service member, one of the Marines would come in, hey, First Sergeant, I want to start school, but I just don't have time. There's always time to do it. Even if it's one class at a time, 3 or 4 classes a year, that's still progress towards something more than what you have now.
Yeah.
So there's always time. If you want it, you can seek after that. Now, on the other end, there's always going to be, I would always have the service members that would come and say, oh, well, we're getting ready to deploy. We're getting ready for a workup. It's really a slippery slope. It's tough to navigate. So that's where the time management comes into play, and really looking at the training calendar and identifying some holes in it. And that's where you have to realize I don't have to accomplish it all now. But I see a 4-month window here. I have a few classes. The military offers great educational programs. They have on-base campuses, and they're very flexible. So if they know, hey, I have an 8-week class, but 1 week I have to go to the field for some type of training exercise, if they talk to the professor, most of the time they'll let them front load that work and knock it out, before or after they get back from that training evolution.
Awesome. All right, so let's get Chad to some of the benefits that are out there today for our veterans, and some they may not be aware of, some they may be aware of. First of all, there's an online forum of veterans that you've told me about. I don't recall exactly what it is, where people can post and they kind of share things. What is that?
Yeah, I mean, if you go to any social media platform, you can just Google veteran, or not Google, but go to the search bar and search veteran, and there's just going to be tens and tens of platforms, whether it's a Veterans Affairs question and answer dialogue, or just some motivated old man that used to be a Marine that just wanted to start a little group. There's several out there, and I think the neatest thing about those is it helps the idling mind. If you have a question or you have a concern or you just want to post motivational things, like that's it, because there's thousands of other people that have been through that transition. There's thousands of other people that have been wounded at war. Sometimes our service members just really need someone to talk to.
Yeah.
And that can be their outreach is social media.
And now, so you did something pretty quickly out of the military. You bought a house recently. So talk about your process of buying the house and what's available to veterans that are purchasing a home.
Being in the military, obviously there's the VA home loan option. Well, it also transitions to outside of the Marine Corps. You're also still qualified outside of the military, but this time it was a lot more worrisome because when I bought my first home still in the military, the market wasn't the way it is now. So, I'd show up to these houses to look at a house, and I feel like it was an eBay war, and there's 15 people waiting outside to go see his house. And
obviously, it slowed down a bit since you bought your house.
It did, yeah, it slowed down. But the hardest part about that is when you use the VA home loan, they'll cover for what the home is going to be appraised for. So, you can't get into bidding wars and, pay $30,000, $40,000 over asking or over appraisal. So I think just knowing what the VA loan offers and how you can leverage that. I think it's also important to identify as a veteran, depending on what state you're from or depending on federal regulations at that given time. If you're a disabled veteran, you may not have to pay, there might be some of the closing costs or underwriting costs that you may not have to pay. Some states may not require you to pay property tax. There's several things out there, and it's just what veterans fail to do sometimes is look these things up and do the research. They don't look these things up and do the research, and they take things at face value. And it wasn't until I got out of the military that I started learning about several of these things. So that's why I thought it was important to talk about today is if me, 21 years in the military, doesn't know about it, then there's probably a lot of people that don't know about it. In addition to what they do, what the military does now is, transition readiness seminars. They help you and guide you towards transition out of the military. Well, a lot of the targeted audience that we have didn't have that. Therefore, they may not know a lot about these tools that the military and Veterans Affairs does still offer.
So can people find out about those things through these forums that we talked about earlier?
Yeah, I mean, you can get them through any. You can ask people through the forums, but I mean, let's face it, everyone's an online lawyer. When asked a question, they think they know, 10% of the answer to. So I would advise against that, but veterans.com, the va.gov, there's just several websites out there that can provide answers.
So Chad, I know that there's also benefits for education once you come out, even education while you're there,
Sure.
Education for your children. Talk about the education benefits for the veterans as well as the benefits for the veterans' children.
Yeah, so obviously the Montgomery GI Bill is what service members transitioning outside of the military, that's what they utilize for their college. While they're still in the military, it's tuition assistance. The cool thing is, we'll take me for example. Most of my education was taken care of during my active duty years, so I was afforded the opportunity to transfer my Montgomery GI Bill to my wife. She got her degree. It cost me absolutely nothing. $0 it cost me.
That's a huge deal.
Absolutely. That saved me thousands of dollars, and I don't have to beg for loan forgiveness.
Right.
We'll go back to the disabled veterans thing, and I think this is most important because there's a lot of service members that were underappreciated and undervalued for what they did, and the injuries that they did take on, especially those that sustained during combat. So you get out and you have disability. There's several states across the country. I'm talking tens of the states across the country that provide free college for your dependents. Some states have a quota on, hey, we may only do 100 per year, but there's a simple application process that you go through, and you just have to prove that you're a disabled veteran. And my daughter goes to college free in the state of Kansas or Missouri. Like, that's just super neat. But if you don't know, you don't know.
Now, what if your disability or injury is non-physical? What if it is PTSD, or you've got some other, mental issues because of the things that you experienced? Are there groups out there that help with that, and is that considered a disability?
Absolutely. I mean, that's probably the most severe of the disabilities. I can cope with a pain in my side or a pain in my leg or my reconstructed foot, but mental demons are a serious thing, and mental awareness and health is a serious thing that, you know, oftentimes can't be controlled. So I think that's more of a cumbersome and worrisome,
There's some
injury.
good charities out there too, I believe, that focus on that mental side of thing. The non-physical disability boot campaign comes to mind.
Yeah, there's Boot Campaign, Wounded Warrior, 22 a day. There's just so many, and that's what I love about this nation is everyone's ready to reach out and help, and there's always some type of nonprofit organization that will stop everything they're doing to help one of theirs. Military One Source, 24 hours, 7 days a week service. Calling. It's a helpline. Um, Re-Medical comes to mind of a great organization that helps veterans that did get out and their disability rating or their paperwork wasn't right. So it helps, they help veterans reevaluate, get their injuries reevaluated, and basically do everything for the VA. So the paperwork is submitted to the VA, and that makes the whole transition a lot easier. Because a lot of times military members are so stressed out, or I take that back. They're not stressed out. Most military members are so humbled that they don't feel that they're deserving of what it is they actually deserve. Somebody that may have PTSD or did get injured, it's like, you know what? That's okay. I don't need to get that evaluated.
Right, but if
Um,
there's something that you can receive for your service that's in addition to, in your case, a pension, whatever the other benefit, you should know about it, right?
you should know about it, and military members do, but we didn't sign up for recognition or sign up for perks. We
Right.
signed up to defend our nation and to fight our nation's wars and make sure that those back home are safe and secure. So as that's instilled in you, it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes, taking acceptance of, benefits, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really just a transition that you have to acknowledge and just be, we'll revert back to my statement earlier, be proud of what you did in the military and who you served and what it is you've accomplished. And
Yeah, but from that standpoint, Chad, I hope that if there's anybody out there that's watching or listening and they were a service member, they had they have a person that they know or somebody in the family that was a service member. The way I look at all these benefits that you have and all of our veterans have is no different than the benefits of working for an AT&T or a Ford or a GM for 30 years.
sure.
You got these benefits. Some of them get insurance paid for the rest of their life. Some of them, they get a pension, and there's the perks that are there for the time that you spent and the things that you did. They're there, so people should use them.
Right. And, it's a mixed bag of tricks, either people don't know about them or um, it's the humility or the humbleness in them and the humility of, I served my time. I just want to move on.
Yeah.
Um, you know, One of the things that I still struggle with is, when someone tells me, "Hey, thank you for your service," like I don't know what to say. To me, it was I was just doing a job. I
Right.
just signed up. I was just doing a job, no different than the rock stars at the Chick-fil-A drive-through, or someone at a church, or someone here managing finances. Just that's just a job. That's
Right.
what I signed up to do. I'm no more special than you. But I'm 100% wrong every time. Our service members 100% should be thanked for their service, and you know, my response now is it's my honor. It was my honor
Yeah.
to serve. Thank you for recognizing and acknowledging that.
So let's move on to investments. I know that the active service members have access to the TSP or the Thrift savings plan. Is that something that's available as you enlist?
Yeah, so that's one of the first things they talk about. When you go to boot camp, they go through a whole finance class and they talk to you about thrift savings plan. And you can actually elect, there how much you want to put into a thrift savings plan.
As much as you can.
As much as you can should be the answer, but you have to figure you're at 13 weeks of boot camp. They're taking a kid and molding them into a man. And
breaking you down a little bit.
They're breaking you down. So the last thing you're worried about is investing for your future. You're just trying to make it to the next meal at that point. And luckily, I was young in my career. I had a great mentor, big brother, and still one of my best friends in the world talk to me about those things. And so I understood the importance of thrift savings plan. And, I didn't know what a 401k is. I didn't know. He said, hey, it's similar to a 401k. And
what's a 401k?
What's a 401k? I'm just trying to buy my next 12 pack. I'm not thinking about investing.
Well, that kind of, I'll get off topic for a minute, but why our high schools aren't teaching that is beyond me. Because that should be one of the very basic things is how to control your finances once you're out there in the real world. If you decide to go to college, you need to learn more about it. If you, decide to go to the military, you need to know it.
Absolutely. And in the military, they do a great job of teaching you those things, and they do a great job of nurturing. And if you're lucky, you get a great leader that is passionate about those things and the whole the personal development, not just the professional development, but the personal development and preparedness for life outside of the military. And not many military members know what the options are. Well, heck, when I get out of the military with my thrift savings plan, do I just let it ride and let it sit? And, if I reach the age of 72, I got to start paying RMDs. Or what is an RMD? Do I annuitize? Or do I start drawing it at 59 and a half? Or, for some special jobs, police, firefighters, EMTs, there's some special jobs where they'll let you draw early, at 50 years old. A lot of people don't know those things. Or I think most importantly, what is an IRA? How do I transfer my thrift savings plan to an IRA that can be more beneficial? And I know you're, a resident expert on things like that. So I'd really like to hear your input on that.
Well, of course, there are some benefits to leaving the money in the TSP, especially if you're going to go into one of the special jobs that you talked about, firefighter, police officer, those types of things, because it'll allow you to have access to those funds at an earlier age. Of course, if you go into an IRA, you're going to be stuck at that 59 and a half age. And what I'm really talking about there, Chad, is that if you got an IRA, you try to take money out of that IRA for any reason other than a few special things prior to 59 and a half, you're going to be hit not only with taxes on that money, but you're also going to be hit with a 10% penalty.
Sure.
And so if an individual thinks that there's any chance that they may need to access that money and they're in one of those special professions prior to 59 and a half, they might want to think about leaving that money in. If they are not going to go into one of those special professions, obviously the TSP has what I'll call quasi-index funds. They try to mirror the equity index. They try to mirror the bond index. They've got their fixed income. They've got their international index and those types of things. But outside of the TSP, there's a whole world of investing options where you can hire a professional advisor that can help you hopefully get a better return over time. One of the things that, if you're early out of the military and you're in a young career and your earnings aren't that high, take whatever you put into that TSP, pull it out, convert it to a Roth. Did you have the Roth option available on your TSP whenever you were in?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and that would be my biggest suggestion is that anybody that's in the military, active duty, should be piling every single dollar they put in should be going into the Roth option of the TSP, because that's probably going to be the lowest earnings that you'll have for the rest of your life. If you can do the things that you said, Chad, get a good education, come out, find a good career. You got that money in there and it's going to grow tax-free until you decide to start pulling the money out. And then you have to be 59 and a half to take it out of the Roth as well. But then all the income that you get in retirement is totally tax-free. And it'd be like you taking home a paycheck and no taxes come out of it. I mean, how awesome would that be?
Oh, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. I think it's also important to know that even if the whole TSP investment is Roth and the taxes are all paid up front, if you are going to transfer it to an IRA, there may still be some tax implications. So I highly suggest anybody that does consider doing those, talk to a professional advisor to make sure that you're doing it the best way for any type of reduced future taxes or anything, because it can very easily be messed up trying to do it solo. I'm a prime example of that. I didn't mess up, but it is very easy to kind of go astray and work it out the wrong way.
Well, our rules around those types of plans, the TSPs, the IRAs, the 401ks, the 403bs, and the list goes on and on of all the different types of plans are out there. They're very, very stringent, and they're super complex. I believe that the number of pages in the tax code that are dedicated just to those types of plans is in the thousands of pages. And as you know, I spend multiple days every year in a very intense study group studying just that code section, and it's ever changing. And to your point, there is at every conference that I go to, there is probably half of one day that is dedicated to people that have messed up, and then they've tried to get the IRS to reverse what happened, and so they have to go for a private letter ruling, which, by the way, costs $10,000 to get a private letter ruling, and they got to spend months in court for the IRS and everything else to try to plead their case. I didn't know. And most of the time, the IRS comes back and they're like, look, the code is very clear here. So the fact that you didn't know is not an adequate excuse.
Absolutely.
Because you made a choice. The code's clear. You should have read it.
Yeah, and there's so much red tape and restrictions, and I mean, in the IRS.
But I don't know how many people have actually tried to read the tax code.
I tried, and I got a good nap out of it.
It's like
it's tough.
You're reading a different language.
It's tough. It's absolutely tough. Yeah, and I think that's more the reason to don't be afraid to ask for help with those things, whether it's looking online and finding some type of outreach, or reaching out to an advisor that is a professional at things like that.
One of the things that I would caution against is in the financial industry, there are an awful lot of people that I refer to as financial salespeople. It could be a man, it could be a woman.
Sure.
They're selling a financial product to gain a commission. And you need to be really, really careful if that's the type of person that you're going to. If you ask somebody how they get paid and they go, don't worry about it, I get paid from the company, that means they're getting paid a commission to sell you something. And so their interests are not aligned with your interests. You need to always seek out somebody who will either charge you a fee for your time or will charge you a fee to manage your money, and it's very clear up front exactly how that get paid, and that person should never ever earn any kind of commission or any kind of fee from anywhere other than the individual that they're serving.
It's a valid point.
Yeah, because it's one of those things. If you don't know, you don't know.
You don't. Absolutely not.
And I will say that the industry has changed in the 35 years that I've been in the industry, where it used to be that I would say 98% of the people were selling products.
Mm-hmm.
I know because I started out that way. Well, that's all I knew. And that's what, that was back in the day when, Merrill or any of the other big places, here's the stock of the day, go sell it. And here's the markup, and here's how much commission you can make if you sell X number of shares. Industry's evolved to where I'd say that maybe 20%, maybe 30% is now people who are acting in the capacity of a fiduciary, who don't ever get a commission, who are paid either on an hourly basis or on a basis of a project that they're going to do for you, or professionally managing the money for you. So they're out there. You have to seek them out. You need to ask the right questions. But those are the people that you need to talk to, not somebody that is selling an insurance product that's going to fund your kid's education and your retirement.
So not my cousin's brother's uncle's son that put up a flyer at the YMCA.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, good deal.
Anything else you want to add as we wrap up here, Chad?
No, I really appreciate you having me on the show, and I appreciate everything that all of our service members have done for our country and continue to do for our country. And happy early Veterans Day. I know still got a few days, but happy early Veterans Day, and appreciate you.
Thank you for your service, and thank all of the members service members that are watching or listening for their service as well.
All right, it's my honor. Thanks, Dean.
All right. Thanks, Chad. Thank you again for joining us for the Guided Retirement Show, and thank you again, all the veterans, for your service to our country. If there are any veterans that are watching or listening to the Guided Retirement Show, if you need some help, if you need some advice, you'll be able to find a link in the show notes. If you're watching us on YouTube, you also find that link below. Don't forget, we're offering you access to the same financial planning tools we use for our own clients. Just get out to the link in the show notes and click the Start Planning button and begin your retirement plan from the comfort of your own home.
Starting your route to retirement.
As always, thanks for joining us on the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Check us out on YouTube for full episodes on video, and leave us a review if you're an Apple Podcast listener.
Investment advisory services offered through Barber Financial Group and SEC registered investment advisor.